you always want to be where you're not currently at.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to be a little further down the road than where you are. If you think like that your whole life,
You're going to miss it.
yep,
Yeah.
You're going to miss it.
that gives us healthy perspectives of be present now and hopeful for the future and reflect on what I've taught you and where I was faithful in the past.
I fully believe that I'm doing that. I fully believe that you're doing that. But I also think there's like a war going on spiritually that we're caught up in.
We would be honest,
Yeah.
and that it wouldn't be about worrying about like what anybody else is listening to or what we project, but just knowing that like we're doing this, we're trying to speak our hearts to honor God,
Right.
And like in doing that, being transparent. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
I'm finding myself rocking with you. So if I start doing that, I'm sorry. It's a natural, like, I'm like,
I
oh.
feel like she needs help. We're going to keep going.
So we did it big. We have our first guests on the podcast, and we have 3.
Yes.
So Macy's
love
making
it.
a special guest appearance. So,
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
first podcast.
but yeah, I guess let's get started.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
a big, I mean, yeah, I can lead into it, but I mean, this
Yeah.
is a big day. Is this our 11th episode?
Yep.
Yeah. So we, from the very beginning wanted to, like, Jenny and I were talking about this. She was like, I think you guys should start, having guests on and talking to other people just to get other perspectives. But for me, how sweet is this? I think for both of us, how sweet is this to kind of have this full circle moment of having this idea and sitting down and you and I getting to know each other and always wanting from the very beginning to bring our wives on
Yeah.
to share in this journey and to share their perspectives. But then I love it that we have Macy with us as well.
Yeah,
So-
it took us long enough to have the idea that we had a baby. Like from the time we had the idea to the time we actually pull it off that we had a
Yeah.
baby. So
Yeah.
so Macy gets to join us.
I love that.
Yeah.
Procrastinators.
How old is
over here.
Macy right now?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
She is sweet. She's beautiful. So
Getting the long blinks.
yeah,
We got
congratulations to you guys.
Thank you very much. We have 3 other girls at home that are the best big sisters.
Oh, I bet they love her.
They love her so hard sometimes.
So
Yeah.
much.
so hard.
So much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually that's a good place to start. Like
Yeah.
what has for you guys, what's been this transition into this new season been like?
Oh,
And yeah, be honest.
Be honest.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Life is so good. No, it's I'll let Caitlin talk, but I just want to say like it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like we know we have it like really good
Mm-hmm.
in the grand scheme. If you look at zoom out and look at the
Yeah.
world, we know
Yeah.
we have it really good. But like there's been some hard things.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't negate like that. That's been a really sweet time.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been a really good baby, and watching her sisters love on her have been really sweet. And just getting to know her has been really good. There's things about like logistically about the transition that have been painful. Just like, which I think is just part of having so many people in the house, like having different emotions about it. And like Landry, who can't tell us her emotions, hasn't been going to bed like she used to. And so bedtime has been like just logistically a nightmare.
I'm glad you used that word. 'Cause that's what I was gonna use. It's been tough.
Yes. And so like not getting any time after like the time that you're like the kids are asleep and you can So that hasn't been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
So you're tired.
yeah. Well, and I think I feel more used to it, and so it doesn't really feel like a big change. But then in trying to correct Landry's inability to go to sleep, I think we've just created more symptoms and are trying to figure that out. She's just complex, and so that adds a layer to everything. And then just feeling that the growing pains. Like it's really sweet to add Macy to everything, but that also means less time for everyone else. And so just figuring out how to love each other well in this season, I feel like has been a challenge. Yeah.
I agree.
So,
yeah.
just to bring context and perspective for people that are listening, like we talked about it before, but just like with Landry's, like, can you talk more about like is it ACH?
AHC.
AHC.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Landry has a super rare genetic disorder. It's 1 in a million. And overstimulation results in attacks of paralysis, dystonia, and sometimes seizures.
Okay.
So what that looks like for Landry is multiple times a day she can have bouts of full body paralysis that last about up to 10 minutes. And she can snap out of those on her own. But kind of at the normal for Landry right now is if she's had a lot of stimulation or not had enough sleep, at the end of a day, she can get rapid eye movement in any direction. That can lead to dysautonomia. So the body's dysregulation of its automatic processes. So she'll flush and sweat and usually cry out in pain and then pass out and then wake up throwing up, and we'll go through cycles of that. So those are less frequent, thank goodness. But every night, if she shows like any symptoms, we're on high alert trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so just figuring out with a new person what that looks like to maintain an environment for Landry.
That's kind of what why I wanted to like touch base on that, just because like obviously having a new baby in the house and adding one to the family and just that whole dynamic for her, like for Landry. So
Yeah, it's stretched us like where Caitlin's kind of always been that safe place for Landry when things were going haywire or she was overstimulated. So she can't always be that.
And I don't like that.
And she doesn't like that. And I don't think Landry likes that. But Macy needs her. And the other girls need things too. And so, just trying to balance all that is, in those moments it can be really stressful and exhausting. But
And a week after we brought Macy home, we had one of Landry's longtime nurses quit, I think the night before a shift. And so just figuring out what that looks like while in transition has been difficult too.
yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but what's been interesting for me to be able to watch through your journey is Caitlin and I worked in outpatient therapy at Mercy, and you're a pediatric physical therapist.
Yes.
So, I mean, how amazing to have like such a special gift that you have in already being able to help children with disabilities. And she's so patient, and like I know that you were picked for Landry.
yeah,
and
I
that's
can't
been
help.
so cool to watch.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like just God equipping you and choosing you.
Yes. I feel like in the days after Landry's diagnosis, I grieved really hard. A loss of a lot of things, and one being my career. And, but even in those moments when I literally would be saying that I hated God, the one thing I could thank him for was that in those classrooms, like thinking as I was like learning my skills and honing them at Mercy, that God was thinking of Landry. And that has always just like warmed, and he kept my heart from being completely hardened towards the Lord.
Yeah.
I don't hate God anymore.
Right.
But man, did I.
To speak the language somewhat like medical terminology, and to just hear you like have a deep understanding of some of the symptoms and just related to her condition. I mean, that's what a gift, what a blessing, you know, because imagine parenting and not having a deep understanding,
Yes.
you know,
Oh
like,
my goodness.
like how much more, how much more of a weight, you know, and a burden that it would feel to not fully grasp what she's trying to work through.
Absolutely.
What her body, what her nervous system is trying to process.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
It's so true. Like we were, I don't remember who we were talking to the other day, but it was like it was in our life group, and we were talking because it's every wife that's in the group is like 5 families, and every wife, every female is in the medical field. It's either a nurse or some other medical profession, like physical therapist. And so we were talking about like parents being the best advocates for their kids. And I'm like, and somebody mentioned like, of course we have to advocate for Landry. We know more about what's going on with her than any doctor in the area.
right.
Like they have just never heard about it, never been trained on it. They've never seen it because it's so rare. And that's why we go to Kansas City, and that's why we go to Duke, because those are the only people that know more than we do, than she does. And like you said, like what a blessing it is to have all that prerequisite knowledge and be like equipped, so that this wasn't completely like an overwhelming burden. Like it is overwhelming, but man, that's what a gift.
So in my mind, like that just kind of leads to the question of like in this season, which is beautiful, but also chaotic. Like what are like strategies that you guys individually and collectively as a couple and as a family are striving to lean into, to make it through each day?
That's a great question. Well,
We need strategies.
That would be a good talking point for tonight when
That
you
would
go
have been
home.
really good.
Yeah, no.
No.
I don't know. I mean,
Like-
and it doesn't have to be so technical as the way that I, you know, kind of framed it. But I mean, I think that's a big thing when I think about even the reason why we're doing this podcast is to be somewhat of a help or hope, a resource for people that are, like Jenny and her friends say, in the thick of it. You know, we in the thick of it.
Me and my
Like,
best friend call each other and we're like, oh, girl, we in the thick of it.
like, and you know, that's
Just
the thing.
naturally comes out.
Right, but that's life, and we don't,
Yeah.
you know, we don't always kind of get to choose the adversity that we face season to season, but we can always choose our response and where we choose to like how are we keeping ourselves, like we talk about being, how are we rooting ourselves in someone or something strong enough to withstand the tough seasons. And so that's just a question that I'm
No, I think it's good.
I have a couple observations of things we've been doing, whether or not it's been strategically implemented or not. But
Yeah.
I think by the grace of God,
and just like your instincts.
yeah, like having the time with you for me has the wisdom that I've kind of gleaned from how you live and how you talk about your priorities and knowing what you should and should have in your life, what you need to cut out. I feel like that's been a big focus.
Yeah.
So like as a business owner of multiple, you know, businesses and a few employees, and somebody who loves like the startup phase and creating and building, I can kind of always be moving on to the next thing. And so I've been able to, I think, slow down a little bit more in the season and be more present at home. Whether that, like I said before, like not being the first one at the office, trusting my team to do their work and being able to like stay home and cook breakfast for Quincy. Like this morning, get up with Adley when she wakes up, and Caitlin's been up all night with Macy, and and then the other thing I was gonna say was like some of the routines that we had established as far as like they don't always go as planned, but like family movie night, breakfast bonanza, which is becoming regionally famous, I believe. And honestly, going to church, even when we just don't want to.
Yeah, 100%.
I could tell you the story of was it 2 Sundays ago? We were like pulling into church. And we were like, we should just go home.
Anybody want to go on a family drive?
there.
I
1,000%.
offered to take everybody. Like, we can just keep going and just go on like a long drive through the woods. And it was like, I don't know. Like we pulled in the parking lot and sat there for a few minutes. Just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And finally, just like wheeled ourselves out of the van, and it was. I'm glad we did, but it's
No, that was the Sunday that I think Landry ended up having a blowout. Michael didn't get to listen. Like you're saying, like glad we did. I'm like,
I'm glad we did it. Like
yes,
yeah,
we
yeah.
were, but
That was
it
terrible.
wasn't that fruitful
Right?
in those moments.
I didn't have my phone. I was like stuck with all this. Yeah, that was
Dude, all I see though, like, oh man, I just as terrifying and chaotic, like we talk about as this time is.
Yeah.
Like, I can say that, like, then just our son just turned 16, and Jenny went through this. What is it? Like a external?
I went through a wormhole.
Yeah, like this external hard drive.
I found this. I keep all of our photos and our videos on this external hard drive, which I need to get onto a cloud very quickly. But
So,
think
like,
started
what are the
watching- I've
tell
heard her
me
say
tell me
that
your
before.
kids'
Yeah.
ages again?
6, 4, 2, and
wrong.
no 7.
oh,
Wrong.
wrong.
Wrong answer.
You're so gentle.
Yeah, I know, right? You're off the podcast. Ben did that to me one time. She started crying, and
You're
he
out of
goes,
concert.
"You're out of the concert." So
7, 4, 2, and 6 weeks.
Gosh.
but
right.
oh my gosh, man, we spent an entire evening, and Jenny probably
All weekend
more.
long.
Yeah,
I was
just
up till 3 o'clock. in the
just
morning.
sifting one by one through all of that time of life, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But to know some of the struggles, to know some of the conflict, to know how terrifying some of the decisions and the things we were trying to drudge through at that time were, it's incredible. That is the goodness of our God, that in spite of our shortcomings, in spite of the chaos that we feel, like he's still working in us and through us for our good and his glory. And so at church for us at North Point this past Sunday, John Martz, who's the campus pastor at North Point, Norton Road, he used this analogy of the farmer with the 2 buckets. And one of the buckets is perfect and one of the buckets has holes in it. And he uses them both equally. He'll use the perfect bucket to go water the livestock and water the garden. And then randomly some days he'll use the bucket that has holes in it, that as he's walking is just leaking water everywhere. And one day, and in the story, the buckets talk. One day the bucket with the holes in it says, "Why do you use me? Like, I'm leaking everywhere as you're going to take water to, the livestock, and I'm leaking as you're carrying me to go water the garden." And the farmer says, "Look down." And the bucket looks down, and along the path that he's walking, the grass is green. It's lush, right? And it's just like, I get emotional like thinking about that, because I'm like, oh man, I'm a leaky bucket.
I'm a leaky bucket.
We're
I'm
literally
leaking.
leaking. This is great.
literally leaking.
Yes, I'm literally leaking. What's wrong with me? So, but it's I think that metaphor, that analogy is so beautiful in terms of looking at, whatever season we're in, and it's not perfect, and it's less than ideal, you know. We just did a fundraiser for Haiti, and I went to Haiti, and that was the one thing that I extracted from that experience is that in a country, in an area that's just ravaged by poverty, and it's just there's a lot in government is corrupt, and there's just so much hardship there. But in the least optimal circumstances, I encounter this people that has like the most amount of joy, in their day to day, and I don't know. That's inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a perspective that we need to grasp.
Yeah.
Like, in the thick of it, right? When you're the leaky bucket, it's hard to
I will say
understand.
it was actually pretty healing watching those videos over the weekend. I told Jeremy we were watching one of them, and we have had some times in our marriages where it was bad. Like, it was bad. And I think we've carried those feelings, and I think I've carried like this kind of like that it was bad, not only for us but for everybody, and that I've maybe we didn't raise our kids right, or that we put things on them that we shouldn't have, and I think there probably is a little bit to that. But we'd had some rough patches. But looking back at those videos, I could see myself in those videos, and I know that exact time in our life, and I'm like, I even remember that day, and there's things that I can actually physically remember from it. But I'm like sitting next to Jeremy, and I'm like, look at these kids. We're still like, made me so happy to be able to look back at it and be like, we were still really good parents. We still showed up for them. We still gave them a really loving household. And we were just in darkness for a lot of that for some of those times. But it made me so happy. Like, it was like, okay, we made it through, we fought through it. And just to be able to still have the kids and have them, happy, and watching them grow up and know that we didn't completely tarnish them.
We were smiling, and we were happy. They had a happy life.
We did.
Yeah.
We were in it, but
That's reassuring.
It really was. Like, you feel in that moment, and you'll carry that. You'll remember how chaotic you feel, because that's I'm especially hard on myself. So it's like for years I've been like, kind of holding things, but it really was really neat to go back and watch those videos and be like, we did okay. We did good. They were happy and in a happy family and a happy life.
I think I feel that even looking back at Landry's videos from when she was an infant, and like looking at Quincy, and I think thinking of that time, that was so scary for us. And looking back and thinking like, well, did we give Quincy enough attention, or did we, was Landry happy? Was she as scared as we were? And then getting to look back and see, no, that's not true. Like, no, they were happy. And hopefully those will be like the same memories that they carry on too.
Yeah. In the moment, the weight of the responsibility and feeling out of control makes it all just feel so chaotic and like wrong. But it's not like it's producing something that
It's sanctifying, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's I mean, man, just to be completely honest, like last night was probably like if not like it wasn't like the worst night of our marriage. I don't want to say that.
Well, it's like a different worst. It's not like, because we've had like knockdown, drag out fights.
And this wasn't that.
Because it wasn't like screaming. It wasn't.
But this season has led to us a lot of feeling of like a lot of disconnectedness. Like we just haven't been able like physically to connect. Like in many different ways, just time. I mean, just I mean, you see it. There's somebody else on her right now.
Yeah.
Like I can't be on her. Also, that would be kind of inappropriate. But like at home,
this point.
she's either holding Macy or like we have 2 kids that are fully dependent on us to getting around.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 kids in diapers. Like it doesn't mean there's not a lot of time for date nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so when I look at you guys and I text you in the middle of the day and you're like, I'm going to see a movie with my wife, or I'm gonna like, oh, I want to be that bucket,
Yeah.
you know. But we're
Yeah.
also we're doing something really good right now,
Yeah.
and it's hard.
And I think that's the trick in life is, you know, these are conversations that we have with the kids all the time is, you know, you always want to be where you're not currently at. You know, you always want to be a little further down the road than where you are. If you think like that your whole life,
You're going to miss it.
yep.
Yeah.
You're going to miss it.
Yeah.
I think I'm the opposite in this. Like I hold on so tightly. I'm a big cherisher. I'm just going to sit here and stare. So it might be like the opposite extreme
Yeah.
problem.
And
Well,
I
yeah.
don't, I mean, and I love that perspective that you're giving is like, I don't believe that God is calling us to a life of extremes when it comes to,
Exactly.
you know, yeah, like I
Yes.
think that there's a path that he wants to walk with us along in the middle that gives us healthy perspectives of be present now and hopeful for the future and reflect on what I've taught you and where I was faithful in the past and like the full measure of combining all of those 3 that is joy, that is peace, that is hope, that is guarding your mind and your spirit. You know, to not want to run ahead of God, to not lag behind where he's wanting you to go, and to just be faithful daily with the opportunities and the people and the problems that are set before you.
Yes, exactly.
Well
I
said.
think that speaks to like when you ask about like strategies. I think in preparation for Macy, the only thing that seemed was just that I needed to cut other things out, including like I was working some, and so working even less, and I was doing things for the AHC Foundation, and so knowing that when I'm home, like wanting to be fully present. I don't think I've ever left a whole lot of room for any like spiritual disciplines. Always wanting to be more like productive and achievement like oriented.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I'm just checking things off lists, and I want to go and just stopping like the glorification of that in my heart. To not see this time like speed by. But that's really difficult like for me. To just be.
Yeah.
But the Lord has such like goodness in that if we can do that. But part of like not looking to the future is that it's kind of scary, like with Landry,
Yeah.
not knowing what that's going to look like. And I think there's also a little part of my mind, like that wonders, like, is this the best, are these the best times of her life? And wanting to be as available and present for that as I can be. Yeah.
Yeah, we've the tension there is not me not wanting to live like in fear, or me probably more likely me not wanting to think about or process the reality, like avoiding that. So I don't want to be somebody who lives like afraid like of what's coming around the corner. Like I have that like tendency, like if something bad does happen, I like, if I'm stressed, like and something bad happens, then I like the world has collapsed, like the sky is falling, right?
Yeah.
And so I like avoid that mentality as much as I can, but sometimes that means like not being fully present and aware of like other people's like what you're feeling. So
That might have been a good point to take away from last night.
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what I was praying this morning,
circle back
that
to
for us to like there's I fully believe that not only is there's other things going on too. Not just that we had a baby and that we have a kid with disability, and like, you know, we have a lot going on. There's other things that happened last year. Like we lost our nephew in like a tragic car accident. And, there's a lot under the surface that everybody's dealing with on a daily basis that you just don't know. And you don't have the time to talk about it with everybody, but in your own home, you would think you should, but in this crazy season of life, it hasn't been that case. And I also believe on top of all of that, there's also spiritual warfare, because I feel like we are both trying to do the right thing and honor God on a daily basis, like with what we're given. I fully believe that I'm doing that. I fully believe that you're doing that. But I also think there's like a war going on spiritually that we're caught up in. And so we have thoughts and emotions that aren't true. Like they come from an enemy that wants us to fight and separate and wants to tear down what God's building up.
Yeah.
And so we have to step back and give ourselves grace and give each other grace, and I think recognize that and sit on the same side. Like that was something that one of the biggest takeaways from a marriage conference we went to. Gosh, how long ago was that?
4 years.
4 years? Okay. Yeah, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
5 years. 5 years.
One of the biggest takeaways was like, hey, when you guys are in an argument, or you're not seeing eye to eye on something, it's like to get on the same side of the bed, sit down next to each other and face the problem together, because it's likely you guys are taking something and aiming it at each other when the real problem is this thing. And together you can attack it. But if you're facing each other and you're in opposition to one another physically, that shift of like being together and facing a problem that's out there is like unifying and binding for the marriage. So anyway,
I don't think we did that at all last night.
no.
I was going to say, how do I face you and sit next to you at the same time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can we do this metaphorically?
Face the problem. We're sitting next to each other. I can't do that.
That's great.
I don't know.
That's so good.
Exactly.
the
I was
problem.
facing the problem.
We're on the same team,
He's like
but I'm the problem.
running to the front. I'm like, look at the problem. And he's like, I'm there. And I'm like, sit by me.
So we're gonna stand with you in front of a mirror.
Oh, that's
There you go. We'll both stand in front of the mirror side by side and be like, it's both of us. We are the problem.
yeah, that's good.
So how long have you guys been married?
20 years.
20
20.
years.
20 years. We've been together for
Been
30.
day.
We've
And
been together for 30 years.
you
On and
guys, okay,
first
let's
off. The first 10 years.
go way
were-
back. You guys met in high school too, right?
We met in seventh grade. Started dating in 8th grade at Cherokee Elementary or middle school.
Junior high.
Yep. 7th grade Jeremy, I thought he was like super cute and nice and everything, and then
He was.
He really was. But he still had Coke bottle glasses, and
He did.
by the end of the year was kind of looking a little better. He came back.
Looking a little better.
He came back from summertime. 8th grade Jeremy was looking real good.
Puberty's an
All
amazing
the girls, he was in his football uniform and they came off the field, and all the cheerleaders and everything were like, have you seen Jeremy? Because we didn't see him all summer. Like,
Got
you just
contacts.
Gotta
He
glow
did,
up.
and he had like the band Crisscross. He had dreads. He had hair
I had
down.
like
He had
braids.
hair down
Yeah, I
here.
had
He had
braids.
like braids.
and everything. But I had long hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, it was like longer.
Yeah.
That was back when we had
We're
that
gonna
like
need
skater.
a picture of that. For
I can
this.
find it. Yeah, I
we've
know.
got
You have to
some.
insert pic.
Yeah.
But like,
He got
yeah,
muscles.
like shaved underneath and like long hair on the top. It was funny. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I was like, he's cute. Yeah. So we started dating in 8th grade. We went to,
That's almost as embarrassing as my story when we met. So keep
oh
going.
no. Do you want me to keep going or do you want to tell
please.
yours?
No,
Okay.
No, not at all.
Well, he actually dated one of my friends first, just for like a couple of weeks, my best friend. And we convinced her to break up with him because we said that he was bad. And so we were like, we already got into trouble over this
terrible.
or whatever. I'm
They
like,
were
I
saying-
love
we
him.
They were
literally
telling her
tell-
that I was in a gang.
yeah, we had a slumber party,
I was
and
like, I
poor
just listened to
Amanda, we told her to
gangster
break
rap.
up with him. Yeah,
Just listening to gangster rap doesn't mean I'm in a gang.
right. No, that's a thought. So we
I might
convinced
have had some suspect affiliations. Though.
yeah, so we convinced her to break up with him, and then a few weeks later, we're at the Disco Fever dance,
Of course.
at Cherokee, and he's in his mustard yellow Guess denim jacket that actually his dad just gave. He had it. He's actually been wearing it for years. Your dad wears it.
Oh my
And just gave it back to us like last week, so we still have it. And Vincent. There was a video that Jeremy just posted of him playing the piano. That's his jacket.
Yes, he was wearing that.
from
He's
8th
wearing
grade.
the
He's wearing the
jacket, yeah.
jacket.
That's hilarious.
So he shows up in this jacket. We danced together all night long, and at the very last dance, it was Amy Grant. It was a song by Amy Grant. I Will Remember You, I think is what it was. He leans over and he said, "Hey, you want to go out?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so then we were going out.
Yes.
Yes. So
That's how it all started.
just history from there.
Oh
Yeah.
my
There's
gosh.
some breakups, and
All that.
we had a lot. We went through a lot. I mean, it was 10 years. We grew up with
Grew
each
up
other,
together,
so we
yeah.
had to shift and realign and work through what all the things that one person would work through growing up. We had to do it together.
Yeah.
So
That's why we're a good team, though, because we've had to do that again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
No.
a lot.
Yep.
That's relatable.
It is.
Yeah.
I still haven't grown out of my gangster rap phase.
He's got Vincent on it too.
I'm still convinced you're in a gang, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's cool.
8th grade,
Eighth
started
grade.
dating. Yeah. Went to high school, and there's a whole lot in between there.
There
Yeah.
is
So
a lot of like on and off. And I was telling one of my clients yesterday that Jenny's grandma Dottie, who's 99,
she'll be 100 this year.
she'll be 100 this year. But she got to the point where she didn't ask Jenny whether we were together or not. She would just go into the house, and if my picture was facing forward, then they knew I was together. If it was down or facing the other way, they knew we were broken up.
Say, which
That's
way do I need to
amazing.
turn Jeremy's picture this year?
Yeah,
I'm like, throw it in the trash.
isn't that funny?
That's what I usually say, like that we've been together since, well, we met when we were 15, but we've been together since we were 18. We just traumatized each other as teenagers.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get through a lot of it, though. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I guess we still had a lot to sort through even after we got married, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
It's crazy.
Yeah, always. And I think that's a perspective on marriage to have. And just in life in general, is that like you always long for those stretches of smooth sailing. And they're nice. And I'm sure you guys would love a little bit of clear skies.
I remember that.
Yeah. But truly though, your bond is forged in the fires of adversity and in the trenches.
Yeah.
And that looks different at different seasons because, new levels, new devils. It's like
Yeah.
you think you're past a phase or a stage, baby phase, toddler phase, and I love, just to go back to a point that you were making, you said that this time that we share together, is just really helpful. And likewise, like I keep saying it over and over, like everybody can have great ideas about how we get a bigger reach and how we make a better. I'm like, selfishly, I'm just really liking our counseling
He does say
sessions.
that. He's like, I don't care who listens to it.
I want, and it's just this idea of nothing good happens fast.
Wow.
Like
Yeah,
it's
I'm not
it's
in a
so
hurry.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah.
I see it more and more and more the more laps that God gives me around the sun. is in the way our culture and our society is everybody just wants everything to be perfect and smooth sailing now. And that's just not the way life is. It's not when you're in junior high and you start dating. It's not when you're in high school or college, or when you're in your 30s or 40s and start dating. It's going to take time. Trust in relationships and all of that, it just takes time. So
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And I was back to the point we had made earlier of like we always want what we don't have. Like we always look, and it's the same thing in marriage. Like I always look forward to that time, or like we're not connecting right now. I look forward to like, and that's worth fighting for. But like you said, some of the hardest things that we've ever gone through, we come out the other side like stronger than we've ever been. And some of the stuff we're still in, and we will always be in. But yeah, that's the beauty is that in my mind's eye, I see we got married when we were 21. Like we got married really young. So I see 81-year-old Michael and Caitlin having been married for 60 years. Like that's the beautiful thing. Like not every day is going to be perfect, but what a cool like amazing testimony that will be for our kids and grandkids.
Yes.
You know.
Well, and I think even in our marriage, we were talking, this sermon this past week was about idols and like the idol of comfort, and how much do we like long for that within our marriage too. And I think you can look at society and see the way like it longs for comfort in marriage and idolizes this happiness. And that's not what God's called us to.
no.
And it like this season might be hard, but I guarantee like it's producing fruits like for the kingdom.
Yes.
And we were talking about a Duke coach that was giving a speech of sorts.
Yeah, what's her?
Mike Krzyzewski?
No, it was the women's basketball
Women's.
coach.
Oh, yeah. I've
have you
seen
seen
little
that?
clips of her.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I don't
nice.
know what her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it talks about like everybody's waiting for like, well, in the next season, like when she's 3 months, like it'll be easier. And those things might be true, but we're always looking forward to the next season for it to be easier. But the reality is that there's always going to be a different hard, and that like we need to be learning to do hard better.
That's good.
And that's exactly like what the Lord is bringing us to. Like we can look back and say like, I'm so glad we met at 15 and went through all those trials, and like see the ways that it prepared us to be parents to a child with a disability and like go through that fire together. And so now like just to be aware of the reality that he's preparing like our marriage to weather more storms.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't just like, the tendency for me at least, and I think other people too, is like to escape and wait for it to get easier. And it's easy to escape now. There's so many other things I could do than like argue with her and get, you know what I mean? Like sometimes arguing is the best thing we can do. Like we have to get it out, or we have to talk of it, and like it leads to us working on things we need to work on. And I could just like go away.
You could just have to work.
Like, I could just, like,
sorry, I have to be in the
I have
office.
to be at the
early. I have
office,
to be in
or
the
I-
office late.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
going
need to go
home.
do something
Yeah.
else, and just wait for that season where it's easier, and it's like that's not coming.
Yeah.
That the coach said, the easy bus is not coming. You're just gonna go sit at the bus stop with all the other losers and that are waiting for the easy bus to come around, and it's like it's not coming. So you have to get better at doing, hard things.
100%.
And then those things become easier, and then you have other hard things to do, and then you get better at handling hard.
Yeah, your success in life will be directly proportional to the amount of tough things you're willing to face, endure. You know,
You said that to, like that's one of the main and that's changed things in my business and at home. Like you've said that so many times. Your success in life will be directly proportional to the amount of tough conversations you're willing to have.
Yes.
And I'm like, you've imprinted that on my brain.
yeah.
And
And then
but
the
it's so
trick,
true.
the trick is then as I go face those challenges, as I deal with some of these heavy weights, what lens am I looking through to address it? Am I looking through the lens of the world or through God's word and what his precepts, what his ideals and standards would have me, how he would have me take these problems or issues on. We talked about just this time that we have is community, right? And I was on the way to school today with Emil. We always do the verse of the day and do a little devotional. And the verse today is, follow God's example, therefore, as dearly loved children, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. And that's the beauty of community when it's God honoring, is that you don't start to model or emulate the world's way to react or respond, but you're encouraged and refined by those who are trying to seek and serve the Lord with their decisions and their actions. And, you're trying to mirror that model in the way that you respond to adversity. It's so easy, though, to forget that daily. We're just constantly bombarded with getting your own, kind of pushing your own agenda. And that's the way, is to fight for what you feel is, your natural instinct and what's enraged you and made you angry and all of that. And if you take that into your marriage, if you take that into your business, you'll find that it doesn't build or edify your relationships, your community, all of that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. What do you think, Jenny?
Tell us about a hard time in your marriage.
Oh gosh. I mean,
Dang.
I'm gonna go straight for it.
I mean,
Jeremy and I are pretty opposite, I think. So,
Okay.
we're very different. And so I think that just in general has always been kind of it's a great thing. And it's also not a great thing sometimes. So when it comes to us working together, everybody's always been how do you guys run a business together and do it? Because we stay in our own lanes. I know he's great at what he's doing. I'm great at what I'm doing. It's really awesome. But I think just personality wise and our passions and how we express what we're feeling and, trying to, I think it's communication. I think it's all, most of the time has stemmed down to really how to communicate with each other and what I need as far as how to communicate with me and what he needs as far as to communicate with you. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that we've grown up with and, had to deal with growing up personally and, just family things and times that have just made it really hard. But I think at the end of the day, kind of what you were saying is when we would have conflict or something that would happen, it's taken me years, even up just to the past couple years to learn how to speak up, how to talk, and how to, try to solve a problem. And I think for Jeremy, it's taken him years to learn how to be able to speak what you're feeling without me taking it personally.
Because I make it personal. I fight. I fight and always have fought to win. Yeah. So if I can, in one comment or statement, win the argument and just come over the top. But this goes back to what we just said. Is it really winning?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
what
really,
are you sacrificing?
Is it really
in that?
Winning when I'm harming myself?
Yeah.
Two become one. And to fight, to win, and come over the top in an argument or a dispute and be hurtful and harmful.
Yeah.
I'm not winning. I never feel better, never have, you know, when, you know,
Yeah.
and just the realization, you know, slowly over time, the realization of that and how, you know, I talked to Vin about this. We talk about this. There's got to be congruency, you know, and I feel that's the beauty of where I do feel like I'm at in my walk with the Lord right now is that I know I'm striving. You know, I know that I'm not hit that mark, but I know I'm striving with in giving that full heart, honest effort to just consistently respond, not based on my own kind of natural instincts or whatever, but to respond out of how I would need to with the Spirit, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to just like kind of quickly say like what's been your biggest challenge or anything like that. You know, Jeremy and I are.
Well, I guess after 30 years, yes, it would be.
Soulmate, you know, like I am so happy to be able to say like we are so in love and we always have been. And I think that's why we've been able to fight for each other so much when anybody else, many would have just called it quits, like really early on. So we had we've had our challenges. And I think through the years, like I had some growing to do just as far as just like with my confidence and how, like I said, how I speak and everything. So I think with the two of that for years, we were starting to, I was allowing that. And then I was like retracting. And so like, it would kind of like, he'd say a word and then it would pull me down a little bit more. And then, so I've had to grow in my faith and as he has as well. So we finally it just clicked. We were like, we're not walking in the same path and we're not doing what's honoring God. And we both need to personally work on that. And the second that started to happen, I immediately saw a change in him. Like it was immediate. There was something, and I don't even know what it was. That's his journey, but there was a different dad, a different husband. Like it just switched, which has now allowed me to start to feel confident to speak up and for us to set expectations and our boundaries and have conversations and say we're sorry and get over things really quickly. And I don't know, it's just like, and that's what's crazy about it. We've been together for 30 years. So when somebody's being married or, you know, just for a few years and they're like, this is so hard, we can't, I'm like, you just keep going. You know, you're never going to figure it out. We're still not, we don't have it figured out, but it just takes like an open heart to be able just to say like, we haven't gotten this all figured out. And what can we do to make it better? And I don't know.
It's good.
No,
That's all good. I agree.
So Jeremy,
that's some wisdom. Can you pinpoint that?
Yeah, can you talk about when the switch happened? What was that?
Man, I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of switches. I mean,
you're right. You're probably, I think
there's a lot of switches. There's like, I can look back at, and I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit when we at the gym had, in my business had kind of change of ownership and there was a lot that was heavy. That was a heavy season. And, you know, we talk about heavyweights and wanting to be able to offload some of those burdens that don't belong in our backpack, but do it in a way that's God honoring and honoring to those around us. I was not. Like during that time, like I was in, I was just self-medicating. I was angry. I was just fighting everything that I think I was doing instinctively was just coming from a place that was in direct opposition to the Spirit. And I remember, you know, saying that and owning it. Like I understand now why Scripture says to not be lukewarm. Like it was just like God in His love will allow you to just fully rebel. so that you can then find out like what that wall looks like that you run into, and it allows you to turn to him or not. Right. And I did through, at that time, through Jenny having the courage to just take the kids and go, see you, dude. We're out of here. We're going to go drive down I-44 to Joplin and let you see if this is really what you want. My dad, came to the house, and I don't remember, I've talked about this in other platforms, but I don't really even remember what was said, but I do remember his physical presence, which I believe models our Heavenly Father. Like, you don't really remember sometimes, but you just know, I feel God's Spirit. I feel his peace. I felt that with my earthly father. I felt that with Greg Meyer sitting next to me, and just his presence was calming. And then we both participated in Living Free. So just a recovery program essentially. And I mean, close your eyes and throw a dart. There's probably a million things that both of us need to recover and heal from. And I think that's another big thing, is just been the death of my pride. Like it's been the ongoing death of my pride. My own ego, my own self-serving interest to get me to where I'm at today. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't still at times struggle with that, but I know for damn sure I'm not like 33-year-old Jeremy. And I know for damn sure I'm not like 23-year-old Jeremy and 13-year-old gangster rap Jeremy. So I always talk about watermarks, and I believe, you talk about altar moments or watermarks or hinge moments, whatever you want to call it. But we all reach those critical impasses. We will all in this journey of life come to an intersection of like, this doesn't even look like there's a good path to take. And that's where those are the times where God has the strong-willed nature that I have. You have friends that you're like, golly, like that trait in your personality could be used for such good, And I have a lot of strong personality traits, and I'm learning to submit them and go, God, how can you refine and sharpen me so that I can be a weapon for, your kingdom, to engage with people, in all seasons, good and bad, and just speak life. But, you got to do it for yourself first. And that's I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just this ongoing desire to continue to grow and just take ownership of my walk and my faith, and the congruency or lack thereof, and recognize it, when there's like, this isn't congruent, with God's word. This isn't congruent with what I know the truth is. And this isn't maybe at times congruent with what my heart is. Like if my heart is to serve God, if my heart is to serve my wife and my kids, if my heart is to serve my business, well, then I've got to be willing to have tough conversations. I've got to be willing to do some of the hard pruning and cutting away of dead branches. And there you go. I mean, it leads me right back to what my instinct is: strong-willed. Yeah. Like I'll be, we've talked about this, I think, but Vincent's preschool teacher said one time to us, she's like, this kid's a warrior. Like he's a lion, and he's going to either use it for a lot of good or a lot of bad. And I don't know where he got that, but
that's what we say about Adley. Like she's a force.
Yeah.
And we just need to push her to be good.
Yep.
yeah.
People are going to
Guide her
follow
as we can.
You got to figure out where you're going to
Yeah.
Yes.
And you recognize that everybody has that kind of force in them. Like, everybody has like the capacity for good and evil. And,
One thing I've realized, I think, with our marriage that I that I'm so much more aware of now is that because there has been that growth, I had resentment, and I had a really hard time letting go of things that had happened in the past, when in fact he has grown and is showing me that things are different. I would, in my head, chip away at him, and if we would get into an argument, I would sling things at him from the past, when he is doing everything possible to grow and show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, I
think
do it,
that's a
and
really good perspective to share
Yeah.
with men and women.
Yeah.
That like if you hold on to resentment, and you're it's almost like you're baiting your partner to just
Fail.
go, screw it. You know what? Like words have weight, words have power. You're speaking that with that, it's like a dog returns to his vomit. Like you're just like enticing them just to go, you know what? That's who I am, because you're speaking that over me. You're speaking that into me. And but man, as bad as I've been, I can't fault you. I mean,
I just think
I'll
more
own
just,
that.
I just think it's not even that, that
No.
you've been bad. I think it's just
No,
a
I
general,
know.
like, different way to look at my relationships, not just with you, but,
Yeah.
family members that,
Yes.
have had
Yeah.
turmoil, or, that we've had some personal things in our family, that it's, oh yeah, okay, you've changed, whatever. And I don't allow that person to just do what they say they're going to do. And if they fall or they falter, be there for them and help them back up. I think it's more like I'm just waiting for them to fall, and then I'll be the first. Like I would be like, "See, told you," So that's awful. That's really like and that's something that I've had to work through. Is like, okay, I'm going to start with a clean slate. If you're starting with a clean slate, or you're telling me that this is your new path, this is your new journey, why am I going to hold on to anything else?
It comes
Like
back to the
I
same-
owe it to the people that I love
Yeah.
to give them that chance to make amends and make things right.
Yeah.
And not, like I said, not just with the two of us, but just any other relationships that I've had. I think I've had a hard time letting go of things that have happened, but you have to do that with people that you truly love and truly care about, or else you're going to end up like some people that they just cut people out of their lives. And it's so sad to me, because there's so much good in people, and so much growth that a human can have spiritually. And, when you just rip someone, obviously there's a difference of like, physical abuse or,
Yeah.
anything like that.
And
There's
even
a level
in the
of that.
absence of that, like there's boundaries.
There's toxic, things.
No,
that you
I'm
need
just
to-
saying there's boundaries that are healthy, that are faithful and good, and like that you should place until it's the proof of their life.
Correct.
Tells you to kind of be willing to break down those walls.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've done is like, creating small boundaries, and then the boundary gets a little bit bigger. And then, it's kind of like,
Yeah. I'll remember a conversation forever. That I had when I was a very young man. I was probably 21, 22, and I was on a flight, and this old gentleman, he was a Vietnam War veteran. His wife had died. So he was a widower, and I was like I started talking to him on a flight, and I talked to him about Jenny, even though Jenny and I weren't together, but I was talking to him about like my childhood sweetheart and all this stuff, and telling him about the music industry, and then telling him about, the person that I was dating at the time. And I just remember him, I just remember him going, well, whoever you end up with, just make sure that you don't marry a woman with round heels. And I was like, what? What do you mean by that? And he said, you need to marry someone and find a spouse and a partner in life that's willing to square up to you, that won't just roll over backwards whenever you want to bulldoze and get your way. And that really, I mean, you guys, we've talked about kind of my tendencies. Like, I was like, my mind was like, that's not who I'm with now. That's Jenny. Like, and even through all the dysfunction of, you know, time at times in our marriage, like, I always respect when she's like, stands up to me, like, and is like, you're wrong. This is like the wisdom that I feel like I get and the insight that I feel like you provide, when your ability to like just say and see things as they are, just very plainly. I admire that because it refines me. It does sharpen me. And I feel like that is what the Holy Spirit will do in us, is it will reveal to you like very clearly, like, this is right, this is wrong. And you will either choose to go, I'm doubling down. Like, no, I don't care. Like, I know what's right. I'm just going to choose wrong. And I'm going to be okay. I always say, I always joke, I'm like, I'll let future Jeremy worry about that. but I've forced future Jeremy to like deal with a lot of crap because present Jeremy just won't be faithful and just be patient and just won't swallow his pride.
Yeah, it goes back to the ego thing. And
or just say, I'm sorry. Like, that was another thing that John Martz, Pastor Martz, said at church. He's like, you know, how many of us, you know, you texted me that you listened to the episode, you know, we're discussing your family and your dad and everything. And I thought of you, I thought of me, I thought of times where I should have said it, or I wish somebody would have said it to me. But he's like, how different would our lives look in certain relationships if we would have just heard those two words? Like, so, you know, to me, that's the bottom line on that point, is like, how that's the question that we have to ask ourselves, is like, are we taking ownership of those things where, I know I was wrong. I know I could do better. I know I could, you know, listen more or be more patient or whatnot. So,
yeah. Well, I think for me, it's definitely the pride thing and ego. I see that playing out in our relationship similar. I think it's equally ego, but for male and female. Like, for me, I immediately get defensive whenever she has a righteous like complaint or something, like she squares up.
yeah.
Right. And thank God you do, right? But my knee-jerk reaction is to be defensive. And that's my ego, because I don't want to admit that I'm wrong or that I could be wrong, and I want to win. Then I want to win an argument now, because that's really convicting for me. And then I see the same thing showing up, ego being the reason why when I do try to take the right step and not be defensive, it's almost like I've created this expectation, and I see this play out last night. Like, I've created this expectation because of so many years of being that way, that when I don't respond egotistically, that it's just going to continue to take more work for you not to be resentful for all the other times I have. Maybe that's what happened last night. Maybe it's not.
I think that I'm just prone to resentment. So I think like that's like a weight on me, like a responsibility of mine as well. Like, and that's what I was up with Macy, and I don't feel like the Spirit's like talked to me a bunch. I told Michael this morning, I also don't feel like the Spirit cusses, so it probably wasn't.
That's awesome.
I might have thrown that in there.
That's awesome.
The Holy Spirit
Thrown that
dropping
one
an
in.
F-bomb in there. So, but even just like coming to realizations of like
awesome.
what I need to own, like, okay, I'm holding resentment over this. Like that's like, I play a part in this as well. and then in different ways like that, I'm not following this leadership. That's not exactly like the, like the complaint, like that I first pleaded, but like I contribute in the same, and just being able to see where that is. But even hearing you guys talk about like the seasons that you go through and the growing, I think it just opened my eyes, like while you guys were talking, to also think back, like we were talking about how we fought last night. And while like, yeah, it was a doozy, but we had conversations and like came to conclusions and like didn't stop. And I feel like there's been so many times through the years and just as we've grown up that I would ball up, and I would be done and I would shut down, or I would like be more mean than we were last night. Or even just yelling. Like we both come from, we haven't had great examples of marriage, I guess. We both come from.
I guess that's definitely true. As far as like our parents, not like, no, we have had really terrible examples.
And so like just we've never known how to conflict and not have it be big or like we're both prone to anger.
So good fight last night.
I know, right? So that's what I was thinking.
Good job, guys.
They were talking, I'm like, hey, I was thinking, I think we did.
It's growth.
It's a great
It's
fight.
not perfection.
I
Like
know.
we're not always
but I
gonna get
love
along.
your point there is very important because it's important to understand or recognize whether or not there's something productive coming,
Exactly.
from this conflict, or nothing good can come when you run or shut down. And like that was my tendency when in the past when we would fight. I say in the past, I mean I've probably done it in the past year. Like if we get in a fight and I just want to leave,
You
like
haven't stormed out of the house in a while.
long time.
That's good.
Like that's
That's
I can't even
I'm
remember.
serious.
I can't remember
I don't
the last
remember
time.
the last time.
Yeah, so that's always like that's a good indicator that
Yeah.
like things are
I'm
changing.
like, get back here. I want to fight with you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And he's
right.
like, nope.
Nope. And,
Well, it's not,
but
like,
that's a
it's not what
defense
it had-
mechanism. That's just as
Exactly.
prideful. It's just as prideful.
Just as prideful, exactly.
Because I'm
exactly.
like that's me being like, I'll win. You can't fight with me. I'm just gonna
I'm going to go drive around the city 3 times.
yeah. Yeah. Just wasting
But that's not what
gas.
heavyweights do, right? And that's where we're at. Like,
Exactly.
you can't run from a fight, and
No.
it's
Exactly.
like
It's-
that's
It's still going to be there.
Yeah.
still going to be there. And in what's more like what's important,
Yeah.
like it's worth like getting into conflict and
And
having productive conflict.
It's good, so good. And dude, take any and I want to just say this because I feel like we talk a lot about our faith because it's just an extension of who we are. But for people that are listening that don't have any faith like perspective, like that's just a good character principle. Like just fleeing the scene of an accident is not a good practice for a man of character and integrity,
Right.
let alone a follower of Christ. So I'm just saying, like, you don't run from that. You have to be willing to square up. And if you want to move the needle on your business, on your marriage, with your kids, like you got to be willing to like have the tough talks. Yeah. Hash it out. Try to be productive in the way that you fight. Yeah.
Nothing great ever happened easily.
Right.
Like it just, that's just how life works. But I really appreciate your guys' perspective. It's obviously very convicting and humbling, and I really appreciate.
Yeah.
You
You
guys.
guys are, I love you guys. You guys are encouraging, man. Just, it's encouraging for me, and I think you as well, probably just to see, like where you guys are at and how you're continuing to strive to honor one another and honor God and honor your kids. And, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing to look at. So keep it up.
And then I think we should probably wrap it up. It's been a little over an hour.
Yeah.
But, Can we talk about how good this baby has been?
She's
Imagine
so
Yeah.
precious.
I mean, honestly though,
She's so sweet.
and what I
gift.
what I was thinking at the very beginning, and we can kind of close on this, but I was thinking like, how beautiful is it going to be that you'll be able to look back and have, get to hold her in your arms while we get to have this conversation. And, I think, I don't know, the more you are able to just sit down and have a willingness to have these kinds of talks, the more you're able to grow and learn and
Yeah.
look back. And, just like these videos that we go look back on,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're reminders. And that was, I think, our prayer. And I know your guys' prayer coming in today. I know my prayer, my I can only speak for myself, but my prayer coming into this day was that this would be a watermark
Yeah.
moment, that this would be a hinge moment, that we would be able to faithfully look back on this conversation and be like, you know what? We were just two couples, we're at different seasons of our life, and we're just striving to give God our best,
Yeah.
and
I've got this small thought in my head since we started this that you kind of touched on. Man, like the notoriety, if this podcast turns into, who cares, right? But like you said, and the pictures and the moments that we get to look back on, like my prayer is that this is a gift to my daughters,
oh, for
to
sure.
Caitlin, like that in however many years down the road when I'm no longer here, that the true version of myself is recorded, talking about how much I love my wife, how much I love my daughters, like in real time, becoming a better husband. Like, yeah.
It will be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
good
great
to
to have
see
you guys on this.
We'll have you guys back
fun.
on. You guys obviously have the keys to the kingdom. So if you guys ever need to come and record a podcast,
Yeah.
take over heavyweight. We need like a female, the wife's take over of an episode or something.
Should we will babysit.
pretty
we'll
easy.
do child. I know she is, man.
So sweet.
Very, very sweet. Very happy for you guys.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right, guys.
Good stuff.
That's
Thank
good
you.
stuff. We'll wrap it up.
Bye.